Hi, welcome to another episode of Queer Conversations. So this is a new series I started recently where I want to just chat to some people who are within the LGBTQ community, anyone who identifies as queer in some way, and we will talk about anything to do with sexuality and identity. So it's one thing that I really love recently, especially in the past year or so. Anything to do with sort of identity and sexuality is something that I really want to learn more about, and it's something that I love talking about too. I have recently sort of come out as gay rather than bi. It was a whole process, and that is exactly what we're talking about in today's episode of Queer Conversations. I was very excited to chat with Alayna Joy, who is one of my favourite people. I in her Discord server. I am one of her Patreon backers. I love all of her content. It's so great. I am so happy that I got to chat with her for a little while. And yeah, we kind of talk about aesthetic attraction versus romantic attraction. We talked about some of our favourite queer books, queer sort of media representation in general. We kind of went off on a tangent about queer fashion. We talked about sort of how we both sort of changed up our fashion and our style after we sort of learnt more about our own identities and discovered more about who we are. We just kind of changed our fashion sense too. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I won't talk too much now. Let's get straight into it. Here's my chat with Alayna Joy. I hope you enjoy it.
I see a little recording thing,
Yes.
so I think that means
We're
you've done it.
We're here. Hello.
Hi.
I'm so excited. So yeah, to start with, for anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you want to? I know it's a horrible question, but do you want to try and introduce yourself and
Mhm.
a bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so just like short version, my name's Alayna Joy. I make videos and content on the internet, mostly about the LGBTQ community. I ID'd as bi for years, years.
Yeah,
Um, and then, 2020 lockdown,
yeah.
I realized how wrong I had been.
It was enlightening for a lot of people.
Apparently so. Apparently so.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's pretty much it. That's
yeah.
about me.
Cool. So yeah, I think one reason why, especially in the past year, I have kind of really got into your videos a lot is because I'm in exactly the same boat. Like I'm literally exactly the same. Like I came out as bi, I think when I was 17, I think.
Mhm.
And then I'm now 26, and it's only just this year that I have kind of started realizing that maybe I'm not bi. And I'm
Mhm.
yeah, so
And you're
it's
what? What are you instead? What if
I
not
think
possible?
I think I'm gay, but I then see a very attractive man and then just think,
Mhm.
you know what? But I think I'm learning to distinguish between what is just aesthetic and what is this is why I've been vibing with your videos so much,
Yes,
because it's
aesthetic
we
attraction.
literally have the same mind, I think, where
Well,
yeah, it's just trying to just find that sort of like of how you feel between whether something is just
there's
completely
so
aesthetic.
much, like, it's so confusing, and like this is the one of the wildest parts of all of this
Mhm.
for me has been like when I made that initial video last year
Yeah.
about like saying, for any of you who don't know, I was in a long-term relationship with a man. We had this beautiful, wonderful relationship. We were engaged. We were starting to plan the wedding. And then I realized, uh-oh, I'm a homo. and, and that when I put so after that all happened, I obviously I needed to tell the internet about it. Not only because my relationship was a big part of the content that I made, but
Mhm.
my sexual identity, my bisexuality was a
Yeah.
big part of the content that I made.
Mhm.
And making that initial video was so terrifying because it wasn't an experience I saw people talking about. I didn't
Yeah.
see content about folks who identified as bi and then realized they were gay. The only context that I saw that narrative in was in a context of like, oh, bisexuality is just a phase, and like these are the worst
Yes.
kinds of people, or the ones that just use bisexuality as a stepping stone. How dare
Yes.
you?
Yeah.
And so I was like, shit.
Especially
I'm
if you had a lot of people as well that were watching you for like bisexuality content.
Yes. And that
Yeah.
representation, which I still stand by, of
Yeah.
like, you are no less queer just because you're in a relationship with somebody who's
God, yeah.
straight, in
Yeah.
opposite gender to you, whatever. Um, but the most shocking part of all of this on my end, other than, the realization
Yeah.
in the first
That little thing.
place, yeah, the most shocking part was how many other people have this exact same experience, not only at the same time,
Yeah.
like I think lockdown brought this out for a lot of us, but just in general, that this
Yeah.
is a very common experience in trying to figure out your sexuality, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Being exclusive to women, being attracted to women, and
Right. Okay.
excluding
Yeah.
non-binary
Yeah.
folks. And I talked about that in one of my early coming out videos.
Yeah.
And the comment section was full of people educating me and sharing that no, you can absolutely ID as a lesbian and still be attracted to non-binary people. Like, I'm a non-binary lesbian myself, is like people in the comments were saying things like this, or
Yeah.
like my partner's a non-binary lesbian, or I'm a
Yeah.
lesbian and my partner's non-binary. Um, Basically just being like, no, this term can absolutely be inclusive. Like, you're a woman loving woman,
Mhm.
lesbian.
Yeah.
And then this like kind of, and then when I learned more about it, and how of course the word lesbian feels or felt like a dirty word to me, because the only context I ever heard it in was like under the male gaze, right? Like in
Yeah.
porn, or in
Mhm.
like, yeah, lesbian had this like
Kind of.
sexual, it was
Yeah.
sexualized.
I think when you're in school as well, like
Mm.
especially when you're younger, it's used as a like a sort of gross insult. Like it's used in a very
Mhm.
derogatory way, and I don't think that helps either.
No,
Um.
absolutely. And that's part of why now I want to wear it loud and proud, is like
Right. Yeah.
the taking it back aspect,
Yeah.
of like, yeah, I'm a lesbian. Yeah, I'm queer. Yeah, I'm gay. I'm a
Yeah.
big old dyke. What are you gonna do about it? You
Yeah.
know? Like
Yeah.
that there's power there for me.
Yeah.
And in trying to respect the history and the queer
Yeah.
folks who came before us, the word lesbian, like that was, like you said, it was more than a derogatory term. Like
Yeah.
people could go to jail, people could
Mhm.
be hurt
Yeah.
still around the world.
Yeah.
Your safety can be in danger if that's a word that you identify with. And
Yeah.
so I've done a 180 on
Mhm.
it. And now I think, and also I've just said it a lot now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, lesbian, lesbian,
Yeah.
lesbian. And it feels a lot less scary.
Yeah, because I think it's the same with the word queer. Like
Yep.
that's definitely, I think, really only in the past few years, really. Because I started university in 2013 and then I finished in 2016. And when I was in uni, I was hearing the word queer kind of for the first time in a way that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like used kind of in a
Yeah.
horrible way. And yeah, so that's crazy that even in only the past sort of 8 years or so, it's
Mhm.
completely changed. So
I think lesbian's next,
and I
for
think I
sure.
think for me, I've only just accepted the word queer as well. Like
Ah,
I don't think I liked the word queer for a while either. So I think I'm just kind of slowly going through all of the terminology and kind of
and that's
learning to
fine.
accept it.
And you don't
Yeah.
have to. If you never feel comfy with the word lesbian,
Yeah.
then throw it out. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that I've been doing a lot recently that I like you've been talking about too is like the changing up your sort of sense of fashion and like style.
Ooh, yeah.
So I know you've been talking about it quite a bit. Um and I don't know what it is about it where it's kind of like you have got past the huge hurdle of like realizing what your identity is. So now you may as well just like reinvent everything about yourself.
Honestly, that's like you just nailed it right on the head.
Yeah.
Like that's exactly what I would say. Is
Yeah.
it's like I've already busted out of the one box,
Yeah.
and busted out of the one set of rules.
Yeah. What's next?
Yeah, exactly. Like bring it on. Whatever you want to throw on me. And
Yeah.
today I'm just wearing a boring old white shirt. But
um so yeah, has that been like a fun process just kind of figuring that out and like just realizing what your sense of style like really is now that you're kind of I don't know if there's a connection between kind of
for
being
me, there's
comfortable in
yeah.
yourself and then
Oh, There totally is.
Yeah.
Even beyond comfort in myself, it has a lot to do with, and like, I guess a disclaimer before I say this, I think
Mhm.
any sexuality can do this.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter that I'm gay, but for me, the acceptance of my queer identity
Mhm.
was hugely important because it allowed me to start dressing myself and presenting myself in a way that felt authentic rather than trying to think about how I appeared to men,
Right, okay, that's
right? And
interesting,
so
yeah.
when I took away that, like, what do men find attractive, or what will my
Mm.
partner find attractive, or what does the world in general find attractive, now it allowed me to kind of just be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care if you think I'm attractive. I like this shirt. I don't
Yeah,
care. Yeah,
yeah.
this sweater is 3 sizes too big on me. You can't see, the shape of my body at all. I don't care.
Yes, yeah. Baggy clothing
I'm
is just I mean, this that I'm wearing today is like 3 sizes too big, and it is the most comfortable thing in the entire world.
Mhm, mhm.
And, like, I think my thing was blazers and trousers, like,
Ooh,
that was my thing. I've realised that I really love. So, like, at Christmas, I got this, like, matching sort of really comfy trousers and then, like, a oversized sort of blazer with, like, a t-shirt,
yes.
like, tucked into the trousers.
Oh, that
And then
sounds
I
like
was
a
just like
power look.
I was asking my mum to take pictures of me in it, and I was just like, "Honestly, I feel incredible."
And that's exactly, and that's what we're all looking for. And I don't think you have to be queer or gay to do that,
Yeah.
but it helps in that, like, I removed this idea of, yeah, the male gaze. Like, my hands are a big example of that. Have always had very masculine hands,
Mm.
and I used to hate them. And I used to, grow my fingernails out and try and paint them. And I tried different, wearing little rings or
Yeah.
like different things to try and like feminize my hands because I was worried that they weren't attractive.
Mm.
And now I go bouldering, right? Like climbing's
Yes.
my
I've
big
seen your Instagram
fitness.
bouldering content. It's
Oh,
great. Every time
I'm
the
obsessed.
story comes up, I'm like, "Oh, what's the progress today?"
I'm obsessed. And like bouldering has just made my arms and hands like more masculine.
Yeah.
And I love it. Like a year ago, that would have bothered me. That like
Yeah.
my arms are getting veinier and like all these things would have really bugged me. But now I'm just like, oh, I don't care if I'm attractive because I'm capable. And that's
Yes, love
been
it.
a shift.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
And shopping in the men's section. You want a tip? Shop in the men's section.
It's so
They've
much
got better
cheaper.
stuff.
Oh
It's
my
cheaper
God.
and it's better.
Yeah. Like
Whoop.
I went shopping with my sister the other day. We've both just got new jobs at the same time, which is scary but exciting.
Mhm.
So we went like I've always worked from home since I finished uni, and this is the first time I actually have a workplace to go to. So I have
Oh.
like absolutely no formal like work clothes at all. So
Yep.
we went shopping the other day. And it's crazy if you look in the women's section compared to the men's,
Mm,
even just the price difference, like my god, like a plain t-shirt in the women's section was
mm.
like I think it was like £8, and then we went into the men's section, it was like 4. Like there's
This is
literally absolutely no difference. I'd say the
mhm.
men's ones have more material on them. But they're
It's
half the price. Like
ridiculous.
what?
Mhm.
Oh,
Same with
it's
like
insane.
razors,
Yeah,
shaving razors. The
yeah.
men's ones are so much cheaper and they have better
Oh,
blades.
women's ones are awful. They just like rip your skin to pieces.
It's I don't understand, but it's like what we were just saying about like once you throw out one set of rules,
Mhm.
you just see them everywhere and you chuck them out.
Yeah.
Check the men's section.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's outdoor wear,
Right.
like camping and hiking clothing.
Yeah.
The outdoor this irritates me to no end. Is like I'll find a sweater that I really like, let's say,
Mhm.
but the women's versions of those clothes, they can't make it without some sort of like pastel, like a bright pink or a bright blue. Like it'll be like a nice earthy color, and then I have like a pink zipper. And
Yes.
then the men's have like, oh, it's like a green and a blue and a
Mhm.
brown. And then the women's are like bright pink and blue and purple. I'm like,
Yeah.
can I just have that one? Why do
Yeah.
I have to have this color?
And like also the stupid like fitted cuts of things I hate too. So like anytime I'm buying any sort of merchandise, like when I've bought like band
Mhm.
merchandise and stuff in the past, always men's, because
Yep.
the women's ones always have like these sort of really fitted like sides,
Mhm.
and
And
like
the
you could
neck
even
is always
buy,
weird.
yeah, you could even buy like an extra large and it still clings to you. It's like, no, just I'm buying men's.
Let's
It will
categorize
actually fit.
clothes like on the fitting,
Yeah.
right? Like rather than saying this is for women and this is for men, like
Yes.
why not just be like fitted,
Mm-hmm.
crew neck,
Yeah.
V-neck.
Yeah. Insane.
That's a tangent. We
Yeah. So because I have a podcast with my friend, and we are honestly tangent queens. Like we can say an episode's going to be half an hour long, and we'll end up recording for like an hour because we will tangent about literally everything. It's so easy to do. So going back to YouTube content,
Mhm.
and where your videos used to be like very sort of bisexual related. Um, did you, when you were like in that sort of whole phase of trying to figure things out again, like that whole sort of stage of trying to work out your identity,
Mhm.
did you find yourself in like a huge creative block? Because I imagine I would have been. Like, was it hard to kind of make the right content that was making you happy? Um, and then once you sort of rediscovered yourself, did it feel a lot more freeing to be able to make what you actually wanted to make once you were comfortable in yourself? Did you have any of that?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I hit like a creative block really at any point.
Right.
Um the shift specifically was like my goal has always been to make content that is accessible and light and just and shows maybe somebody who's wouldn't necessarily be in the queer community or something, or isn't surrounded by a queer community,
Yeah.
to just show them like this is an experience that exists and it's valid.
Yeah.
And so that didn't change whether I was bi and with a man or
Yeah.
gay and single or whatever.
Yeah.
So that being with the goal of like bringing kind of a lightness and a humor to education, to
Yeah.
like sneak some education in, with that being the goal of my content, that never changed.
Right.
So I never really had to go through a real like, okay, well, what am I going to make now? Because it was a pretty seamless shift from I'm making content about this identity that I have and the relationship that I have and the validity of that,
Mm-hmm.
to I'm making content about the experience of discovering
Yeah.
my new identity
Yeah.
and the fallout from that.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say that it wouldn't have been a creative block. It would have
Yeah.
been a fear block of like, what are
Yeah.
people going to think?
Yeah.
And then now I absolutely feel more free
Yeah.
because it's like, well, because I am.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
people know now. They know the past. Now they know the things that I had been hiding for years,
Yeah.
like with the non-monogamy and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's out there now. So
Yeah.
I don't have to be afraid of I don't have to be afraid.
Mm-hmm. And I think because you're the kind of person that's so able to just like joke about it as well, like I think maybe some people would almost put it in their past as if something they never want to talk about. But I
Yeah.
think because you're still just like, well, no, that was a thing that happened, and it's still like you're just so able to be able to just joke about it and be silly about it. I think that helps as well, where
Yeah.
people aren't
Because it
scared to
feels
reference old content and stuff you've
Yep.
made because
Yep.
it's still like it was still a big part of you.
Oh my god, it was so important and I still stand by everything that I made. Like
Yeah.
I was never lying or putting on an act or putting on a show.
Mm-hmm.
I was living what was my truth at that time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't think I have no reason to want to bury it and hide it away. Um, Especially if it can be a learning experience for somebody else to be like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, these are the things that she thought and felt, and this is how it turned out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, like, I can't even imagine where you've, like, put so much out there and then everything changes. Like,
Oh,
I
it's
felt scary
horrifying.
enough where it was just like, because, like, I was in, like, the LGBT society when I was in uni, and I think being there definitely helped me be a lot more open about it, because I
Mm,
knew when I was like kind of 17, but actually talking openly about it and kind of making content and stuff about it, I think it was especially being in uni. And like
mhm.
when I was in my third year and I lived with some of my housemates, it was funny because four of us were LGBT and only two were straight. And it was so funny that it was like the straight
We
people are
find each
actually the
other.
minority. And it's
Mhm.
just, we've always had this joke where people tend to like flock together, and it's like this natural thing where I don't understand how like LGBT people somehow manage to just flock together naturally.
Yeah,
I
it's like
love it.
something we can pick each other out, and like
Yeah.
that's who we wanna
Yeah.
be around.
But yeah, I think I found it hard enough where all my friends kind of called me, like they said that they knew I was bi, and like I was making content about it, and like I was, again, like you, I was kind of making videos about it. And then I think, so like I had it on a very low level, so yeah, I can't imagine with you having so many followers all kind of following everything that you do and like your relationship and everything,
Yeah.
for so much to suddenly change.
It
Oh
was
my god.
it is very intense, and,
Yeah.
like, I actually I can't even, like, think about all
Yeah.
of the things that are out there from the
Yeah.
past, like, I need to do a real deep dive and just, like, cut some stuff, but, like, it's sometimes I'll make a video or something, and then in the comments, someone will reference something from years ago where
Yeah.
I'm like, I said that? I don't remember. How do they know that? How do they know that about me? And I'm like, "Oh, because I've said everything about my life for the past 10 years." Like,
Yeah.
there's
Oh.
but, like, with that, I think also comes, um, more of an understanding from an audience too, like, if we wanna
Right.
look at the more positive side of it,
Yeah.
is, like, they've also seen, like, they know who I am.
Mhm.
You can see who I've been and how I've gotten here for the past 10 years, like,
Mhm.
so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's overwhelming. It's definitely overwhelming.
Yeah. Going on to sort of like representation. So one of the
Mm,
big things that I love, I mean, I did like a media degree. I clearly like books. I'm really big on like representation in both media, like, and in books. So I kind
mhm.
of want to talk a little bit about that. So as you were coming to terms with things, like whether it was when you were bisexual or whether it was when you were coming out as gay, um, was there any like specific media representation that helped you?
So, a TikTok.
Nice, yeah.
I so this is an interesting question because there are so many things that when I look back over my life, I'm like, "Oh, there were so many red flags, like, so many red flags that I was very good at, like, shutting it down and packing it away and not looking at it. I was
Yeah.
very good at it.
Mhm.
And looking back, I realized one of the ways that I did this is I did not consume queer media.
Right.
I avoided it,
Okay.
which is, like, bizarre because I was openly bi.
Yeah.
Everyone in my life knew it. There's no reason for me to shy away from queer representation, but I
Mm.
absolutely did. I didn't watch queer movies, I didn't read queer books. Engaged myself in the LGBTQ community on YouTube,
Yeah.
and that was it. And I kind of saw like my YouTube life as one version of my life and then my real life as my other version of
Right.
my.
Yeah.
And then TikTok hit and the TikTok algorithm just was like, "Oh, you gay. You so gay. You so gay."
Yeah.
And so that kind of was like I didn't like avoid it, that form of media.
Yeah.
And then now, like since coming out,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm having this like queer media awakening. I'm like
Yeah.
watching all the movies you're supposed to watch. I'm reading all the books. I'm like
Nice.
seeking it out,
It's
and
like this
it's
whole new world.
and it's like it feels like I can breathe.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Mhm.
Whereas before, the only queer movie I can remember that I ever watched was like Blue is the Warmest Color,
Oh god, okay.
right? And I
That's
watched it alone in
yeah.
secret, like with my headphones in, up in my bedroom one night when
Yeah.
my partner wasn't home,
Uh-huh.
which is like I had no reason to hide those things. He would have happily watched any media with me. He would have happily engaged in any of this with me. But like it was something that I felt I needed to like keep to
I mean,
myself.
that's an intense film to be one of the first
The
queer
only,
films
like
you
the
watch.
only.
My God.
But like I watched it and same thing, just like alarm bells, where I'm just like, turn it off. Don't ever watch anything like that ever again.
Yeah, I think I only recently, probably in, I don't know, it's hard to really put like a date on it, but like the past year or so, I guess, I've been like specifically seeking out more like queer books and stuff. So
Yeah.
with
Have you
books
found any?
especially, I like so many. I think pretty much the majority of the books I've read this year have been ones either by queer authors or
Yeah.
and with queer characters. So
Mm-hmm.
many, like there's so many
Any
incredible
highlights?
ones. My God, hang on, this is where Goodreads comes in, because
Oh yes.
as soon as I finish a book, I it's out of my mind and I move on to the next one. So
Yep, I'm the same. I keep them. I keep track of them in my bullet journal. Otherwise, it's
right,
gone forever.
I've tried a bullet journal so many times and I
I
can
love
never
it.
keep up with it. Like I always end up just ditching it.
I think the only reason I can still do it is because I have the one same spread that I have done for like
Right.
2 years. I
I
do the
think I
same
tried to
exact
be
thing
too
every week.
creative with mine. I think maybe that was the problem.
Yep, I tried
Mhm.
at the beginning.
Yeah. Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas
Cemetery Boy.
is it's about uh oh my God, I've forgotten the word. It's like people in America, like
Mm-hmm.
Latinx people in America where they can like see ghosts. I've forgotten what the word is.
Oh,
But he
psychics.
kind of, it's like a Latino word and I can't remember what it is.
Ah.
But he the main character is trans, so that's like something that we definitely need more of, is trans main
Mm-hmm.
characters. And he sees the ghost of a teenage boy from his school,
Mm-hmm.
and he basically ends up falling in love with this ghost. But
Oh.
he needs to try, and he's basically, they have this like swearing in ceremony when they get to like sort of late teen, to become like an official member of like this sort of family group. And he wants to try and like, it's only the men that have this ceremony, and they don't see, a lot of his family don't see him as a man because he's trans.
Mm-hmm.
um so he basically wants to try and help this boy, like this ghost, sort of like return, like go over to the other side. But then he ends up falling in love with him, so it's it's so good. Like the author's writing is just incredible, trans author as well.
Okay.
So good. That is one of my, I
I
could
wrote it
sit here
down.
all day and recommend books, but
Maybe
um
send me an email, like send me a list if
yes,
you have a minute,
I
because I'm like
there's
that's like
so
I am hungry for it. You know,
yes, yeah,
I'm starved.
yeah. And like I've been trying to seek out more FF books specifically as well.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's an issue, I won't go into this because I talked about this in my, like I, the last video I did of like this new series I'm doing was all about this. But there's like so many books where they're like male
Yeah.
sort of relationships,
Yep.
and they're only just starting to, like ones with female relationships are only just starting to grow now. um
And that's what I
which is,
want.
yes, I know, this is what I'm like desperately trying to seek out now. But yeah, I'll send you a list because there are so many, because I have to ask about books, because it's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm all about. What are some of your top book recommendations? So they don't have to be queer ones, just any books at all that you recommend
Mm-hmm.
that absolutely everyone reads.
Oh my God. Well, I have a billion. I
Yeah.
love books.
Mhm.
You can't. I just kind of moved in here. Oh
Mm.
my God. I guess it's not recently anymore, but it feels recently because I was in the UK.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
I lived in the UK for a few months, so it feels like I've just kind of,
Unexpectedly.
yeah, whoops, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
But I'm gonna put shelves here because I have
Nice.
all my books in my bedroom.
Mhm.
But top books I recommend everyone should read. I always recommend Three Women.
Mhm.
It's called Three Women by Lisa. Ooh, what's her last name? Tadiao, Lisa Lisa T.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's absolutely incredible. It's nonfiction, but it's written it reads like a fiction, but it's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
And it's a story of three women.
Mm.
And this author, she spent some 6, 7 years like not engaging with, but like participating in these women's lives. Like
Mm.
she went to their hometowns, she'd do interviews with them. She one of the stories is about a court case. She would go to the court hearings. Like she participated in these women's lives for like years
Mm.
and then wrote their stories. And it's essentially a study on the sexuality of being a woman, of like
Right.
sexuality and desire and the different forms that love and sex take
Nice.
from women's perspective.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So that one, Three
Yeah.
Women, that's one of my top faves.
Cool.
In terms of like queer books that I've been reading, oh my god, there's so many. I just finished Little Fish by
Right. Yeah.
Casey Flett. It's about a trans woman living in Winnipeg. Uh, We Have Always Been Here by
Mm.
Samra Habib. Samra. We Have Always Been Here by
Yeah.
Samra H. First and last initials, so my memory is terrible.
Yeah.
It's a queer memoir about
Mhm.
a queer Muslim immigrant woman who came to Canada. So it's memoir, it's true story. It's
Mhm.
Samra's story. It's beautiful. I read that one twice, once
Mhm.
before I recame out and once after I recame
Right. Interesting.
after I recame out, I was like, "Oh my god, her story is my story! Oh my
Yeah.
god!"
I've done that with
Beautiful.
some things. Like I read
Mhm.
them a while ago and then read them again like this year and read them completely differently. So
100%.
there's like another book that I read it in 2019, I think, when it just came out. Reread it again this year, like last month, and crazy how much I got out of it this time compared to two
Uh-huh.
years ago. Because even though it was only like 2 years ago, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
even now the amount that I have changed in terms of being open about everything and just being able to
Mhm.
discuss things has changed so much, even just in 2 years. Um, but
What
it's
was
like
the book?
it's All the Bad Apples by Moira Fowley Doyle. I find her name so hard to say. Moira
That's
Fowley
the
Doyle.
most British name I've ever
Yeah,
heard in my name.
she's Irish.
Okay, I was gonna say it sounds
Uh,
like Irish or Scottish or
yeah,
something.
so it
Not
like
British.
it's like one of those really nice like sing-songy names. I love it.
Mhm.
Um, but it's so much of it is to do with like there's so much symbolism in it to do with sexuality, and it's basically this girl who comes out to her sister as gay, and her dad, who isn't a very nice person, he's like
Mhm.
very sort of religious, and he has all these very traditional sort of views, but he's just generally not a very nice person at all. So he's
Mhm.
not really in the picture, but he hears her come out as gay. And her sister is kind of like another sister that isn't with them now. Um, she is kind of cast out the family for being known as a bad apple. So like she's kind
Mm.
of like a rebel of the family. And she tells her that there's like this curse on all the women in the family who are bad apples. And she sends her on this kind of she like goes missing and they assume that she's dead, and they
Mhm.
send her on she kind of writes all these notes for her to find and sends her on like a wild goose chase all around Ireland, trying to find like she learns about the family history of all the women in her family, and
Okay, this one I
they were
wanna read.
like gay women in the family
Yeah.
who this was like in the 1800s. It was the kind of thing where they were these two women that everyone thought were witches, and they were like really good friends who lived together. That's that sort of thing. That
Uh-huh.
classic, yeah.
We've
And
all been there.
yeah. Um and yeah, she just kind of finds out about this supposed curse that have been on all the women in the family. But so much of it is to do it's like so symbolic of like I mean Ireland anyway has always had so many issues with
Yeah.
like I mean abortion was only made legal in 2019, I think, 2
Yep.
years ago.
Mhm.
And there's so much about like women sailing across to England to get abortions,
Yeah.
and uh things to do with yeah, just kind of the general just like symbolism of kind of being the bad apple in the family, but about kind of like how it's not actually a bad thing to like fall off the tree. Um,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
so good. But yeah, because so much of it is like it's so like poetically written, it's just like beautiful. But yeah, I
Mhm.
think now that I'm a lot more open and I kind of know a lot more about myself, I think reading it now, I got so much more out of it and understood it a hell of a lot more.
Mhm.
And I could kind of identify with these characters a lot more. And it's just so crazy how
Well,
you
it's
you
like,
can like consume something before and after you've kind of learned more about
yes,
yourself and get a completely different experience each time.
it was always for me, it goes back to that like fear response. Like where
Mm.
you're saying that you relate to the characters and you see yourself in the shared experience.
Mm-hmm.
When I would have those feelings before,
Yeah.
it was like a fear feeling of
Right.
like I read before all of this, I read The Seven Husbands of
Oh, yeah.
Amelia Oliphant or something. The
Yeah.
Seven Husbands of
I know.
something Hugo.
Evelyn Hugo.
Evelyn Hugo,
That's
there it
the
is.
one. There you go.
Yeah. And that book I was just enthralled by. It's a beautiful book, would definitely recommend. Great
Mm-hmm.
read. Because it's the woman, the main character is bi. And I was like, oh my God, a bi woman. But there's one scene in the book where she kisses a woman, or she kisses this woman. I don't know if it's for her first kiss with a woman, but she has this experience with a woman for the
Mm-hmm.
first time. And the way that it's written, like I remember reading it and just being like, this is it. Like this is what it feels like. I've never had somebody put it into words before.
Right.
And being so fixated on that passage, but almost in like a frightening way, because
Yeah.
I had never, the beautiful things that were written there was not my experience with men. It was only my
Okay. Yeah.
experience with women. And then now, so I just also read the book The Price of Salt. The
Okay. Yeah.
Carol movie is based on The Price of
Yeah.
Salt.
Mm-hmm.
And in reading that, I was able to, instead of see those experiences and be like, uh-oh, like yeah, that's kind of how I feel.
Mm.
Oh, makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't know about that. Now I'm reading them and I'm like, oh my God, women are so beautiful. Oh my God, like this experience is so wonderful. They're so soft. And I just
Yeah.
like, it's like instead of identifying with those experiences and being afraid of them, it's like an
It's
exciting,
like more empowering.
yeah, it feels like, oh, this is my experience in writing, instead of
Yeah.
like, oh, this is my experience in writing. Like nobody else should
Yeah.
probably see this. I don't really know if I want anyone else to know that this is my experience in writing. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
ah.
Yeah. So if other people are in the same boat and they're maybe having this sort of internal debate, I mean, I think this kind of internal debate in my brain has gone on for like 8 years, but
Oh yeah. Will
um
it ever end?
and
We
yeah,
don't know.
that's the thing, it never ends. Like you can say that you've discovered yourself, have you?
There's so much more. There's always
Yeah.
more.
But yeah, if people are kind of having this sort of debate about their own identity, what would you
Mhm.
say is like some of the best advice for them? So like maybe what helped you like come to terms with it and find it to be less of a terrifying thing?
Oh boy.
I know it's a
Yeah.
big question, but
It's tough because it's so different for every person, right? Like
exactly, yeah.
it I had to have those experiences in order to accept within
Mm,
myself, because I've never been one of those queer women who had like a repulsion reaction to men. Like
okay, yeah.
I was never one of those people that just knew, oh, that's not for me.
Yeah.
Um, oh man, it's tough because I had to have experiences to compare and contrast.
Okay, yeah.
And then I kind of had this moment, I had like a gut feeling moment where I just knew.
Mhm.
And once I had that, I tried to continue living the life that I was living, and it absolutely was not computing.
Right.
So it's a lot about following your instincts and trusting yourself,
Mhm.
but it's also, I understand that it's not that simple.
Mhm.
I would invite you to sit down, and we touched on this earlier, but like
Yeah.
really look at romantic attraction, sexual attraction,
Yes.
aesthetic attraction.
Mhm.
When you picture yourself with a person, a gender, whatever it is,
Yeah.
how do those different experiences make you feel?
Mhm.
So when I yeah, when I would picture my life with a man, or I would see an attractive man out on the street, and I'd be like, "Ooh, yes, attractive man. I can't be gay because I'm attracted to that man."
Mm-hmm.
Um, we could say Harry Styles.
Mm-hmm.
Great example. So
Yeah.
many bi women are like, "I'm
Who
gay, but Harry Styles."
who doesn't find him attractive? I
Oh,
mean,
he's a beautiful man. But when I imagine myself, like, I don't want to hold Harry Styles' hand. I don't want
yes. Yeah.
I don't want to marry Harry Styles. I don't want to sleep with him. I
Mm-hmm.
don't. It might, you might think, oh, it's an exciting experience because he's Harry Styles, but like when I really break it down, is that something that excites me? No.
Mm.
If I imagine Harry Styles as a woman, very different experience.
Yeah.
Very different
Yeah,
experience.
I've had this exact same thing very recently, like literally in the past month, where
Mm-hmm.
I kind of it sort of blew my mind recently when I did kind of break those up into like I mean, I think it started at some point last year. I went on a date with a man for the first time ever. Like it was the
Mm-hmm.
first because like I've only had a relationship with a woman, so it was the first time that that had happened, and I think it was really nice. Like we talked for like 2 hours or something,
Mm-hmm.
and we just like went for a walk, and it was really nice just chatting. But then I was like, I've just had a really nice day with a friend. Like
Yes.
I've just had a really nice chat, platonic chat with a friend. And like
Uh-huh.
when I tried to, it was almost like trying to force my brain into making it something more.
Well, so, and
And when I
I have had the opposite
right.
where, because we've been trained from so young that like having a nice time with a man means that it's romantic and you're in love.
Okay, yeah.
So I had to untrain that to be like, oh, just because I'm having a nice time with this person doesn't mean that I want to bang
Right.
them.
Okay. Yeah.
I
Whereas
had
I
to,
was kind of I knew straight away that I was kind of
yeah,
like, okay, I didn't feel anything there.
yeah.
Um I think it maybe helps that my only sort of major relationship has been with a woman, and
That's
it was
right. There's the
everyone
data.
yeah,
Compare and contrast.
everyone knew about that. I was very open
Yeah.
about it. Like um so there was I kind of I didn't have that thing where I was wondering if I liked women because I clearly proved that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was because I knew I was already sort of debating that anyway. It
Mm-hmm.
was kind of that was the first step to me sort of being like, okay, this is interesting.
Like,
But like
yeah.
you said, it's those things where I wouldn't have known that if I didn't go on a date. Like I had to actually go out and go on that date and
Yeah.
go through the whole process of being like, okay, actually, something feels weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like I know it's hard to say like you need to experience it because I know some people don't. Some people do definitely know, and I wish I was one of those people.
Yeah, see,
Like,
I'm not, so I'm like, you've gotta put yourself out there, you gotta try it,
yeah.
and I think if we can, we also have to try and take some of this pressure off of ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to, like, figure it out and pick a label and get it done and all this stuff,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
it's okay if you it's it's all okay, like, it's okay if you identify as bi,
Yeah.
and then you go, "Oh, you know what? I've been seeing, Elena's videos online, and I've been seeing all this stuff about compulsory heterosexuality.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I am gay and not bi."
Yeah.
And then you go out and you think about that, and maybe you explore it and try it out, and then you go, "Oh, you know what? No, actually, I am totally bi." That's
Yeah.
fine. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with, and there's nothing wrong the other way either. Like, I have
Mm-hmm.
a very close friend who identified as a queer woman, a lesbian woman for years,
Mm-hmm.
and then she met a man that she's very in love with, and
Yeah.
now
I
she
know.
identifies as bi.
I
Like,
had a friend like that too. Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with
She even
any of
had a
that.
blog for a while where she was talking about like the whole sort of lesbian experience. And yeah, that
Yeah.
was exactly the same where she went to uni
Hmm.
and then met a man and then she kind of was just like, "Oh, okay. This is not what I thought." But
And I,
yeah, I
I
think
wish that
it's
there wasn't pressure from either community, pressure on ourselves to like
yeah.
make a decision and then that's your label forever and you better never go back on it or change it. That's
Yeah.
not how being a human works.
Yeah, I think a big thing of it is like inside your own brain, you need
Yeah.
to give yourself that sort of space to, like,
Permission.
not, yeah, that's it, like, permission to just be like, things can change and that's fine. So that's
Yes.
what I did recently, where I started telling people that I'm gay,
Yep.
but in my head I'm still, if that changed, I'm not going to feel guilty about that. Like,
And as you
if
shouldn't.
you've just got to give yourself that sort of
Yep.
permission to be like, this is how I feel now,
Yep.
but I could change that. And it's like, it's literally about anything else. It's like, if you liked a certain food as a kid and now you like it as an
Mhm.
adult, you're not going to be ashamed about that.
A
So it's
hundred
like,
percent.
yeah, it's like, it is just such a big thing, because it is like such a core part of like who you are.
And
um
it's, yeah, people tell us and the community tells us that, like, it's just stigma, right? Like,
yeah.
it's stigma. I think at the end of the day, all of this is biphobia. Like, all of this pressure of, like, you have to pick a label and don't change it. Rah.
Yeah.
It's people being afraid and distrustful of bisexual people. And so
Hmm.
it's like they want you to figure it out and decide, and don't you dare change it, when it's like, come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, there was this big debate yesterday about how there was this author has written a book where the main character is bi, but in like a kind of straight relationship. And they people were saying that it's not a bisexual book. And this author was just like, right,
Oh
how do
no.
I? So many people were just like getting so mad over it. Like, no, it is. It still is, because he literally says that the character is bisexual. Like,
Yes.
what else do you need?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
But
it
that's
drives me
that's
insane.
exactly the problem. That's part
Yeah,
of it. It's like saying, well, you're not queer if you're in a relationship with someone of the opposite gender, or you're
yeah,
not queer if you're in a straight passing relationship, or
yeah.
you're not queer if you've never been with a woman. You're not. Stop. Shut up. Everyone,
Just
just
yeah,
shut up. Like, stop this
yeah.
gatekeeping garbage of, like,
Hmm.
trying to tell someone else what words they can and can't label themselves as.
Yeah. Yeah. So one more question. With, I know mindfulness and compassion are like two of your biggest sort of things that you talk
Hmm.
about and you love. Um, what are some of your sort of quick tips for those that are struggling right now, to kind of be kinder to themselves? So
Mm,
again, whether it's struggling with like their identity, or whether it's literally just struggling with like the pandemic, like
yeah.
what are some of your quick tips to for those people that just need to be kinder to themselves?
I mean, it's, oh my God. Yeah, this is a whole
Yeah, I
other
said it's
conversation.
a big question, but
Quick mindfulness tip
mhm,
that I use for myself all the time
yeah,
is the simple phrase, right now I'm okay.
mm,
And I mean, literally, not in a figurative, abstract, like, things are okay in my life, right? Not at all. Right now, in this moment, sitting in this chair, talking to you,
yeah,
taking the breath I'm taking, I'm okay.
mm,
Even if everything is falling apart,
yeah,
right now I'm okay. So
mhm,
that, practicing with that, so briefly, it's like a mindfulness chunk.
yeah,
Self-compassion, my best quick tip is, when you catch yourself being horrendous to
mhm,
yourself and judgmental and harsh and unforgiving,
yeah,
as we so many of us are, ask yourself, how would I treat a friend in this situation?
mm,
If somebody that I loved so deeply and cared about so deeply was going through this exact same thing, what would I say to them?
yeah,
And that can help us kind of, like, gently reframe the way that we speak to
mm,
ourselves, because the things that we say to ourselves, we would never say to another person.
yeah,
Never. It would not,
mhm,
absolutely not be okay.
yeah,
And so, but it also can be really scary and difficult to, even for some folks, to even, like, touch the idea of being kind to themselves.
yeah,
So a good entrance to that is to imagine that you're not saying these things to yourself, you're saying them to somebody else that you care about
yeah,
who's in that same situation. Um, so those would be my top two quick ones.
yeah,
Right
nice,
now, I'm okay.
yeah,
Right now, I'm okay. And how would I treat a friend?
cool.
Yeah.
I like it. So yeah, that was that's all my questions I've got.
Well, thanks for having me.
No problem. I know I had a few more in Discord as well, but I I don't know if we've got time to
I
get to
mean,
those, but we kind of
yeah,
went off on a lot of tangents. But
I think we covered some good stuff.
yeah, that was great. Thank you for joining me. It's been very exciting. I've been excited
Of
about this all
course.
week.
Oh, well, I'm glad that it worked out. And I'm
Yeah,
glad, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
yeah. Thank you. So the first episode of this new series that I'm doing went up last week, and it was with Imi and Ellie, who are book bloggers, and we talked all about FF representation in books, so sapphic representation in books and media. And yeah, if you want to listen to that one or watch it, then you can watch the video there. I'm not sure which side I am. Whichever side it is, you can click on the video now to watch it. On my channel, I also do a lot more sort of queer content. If you're into that, why not subscribe? That would mean a lot. And I'll see you soon with a new video. Bye!